If you've been on a fat loss journey, you're eating clean, getting in your protein, going to the gym, but you feel like no matter how hard you try, you really just can't see much progress. You lose a little bit of weight, you end up gaining it all back. What gives? Well, if this has been your situation, that you're trying hard, but you're really not seeing the fat loss progress you want, I can pretty much guarantee you are making one, if not several, of these 5 mistakes that I'm gonna cover in today's video, so let's get into it. What's going on, Fit Fam? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan Janice. I'm an online nutrition and fitness coach for women, and I teach ladies just like you how to eat way more food without any restrictions and work out smarter instead of harder so you can build that sexy, strong, feminine hourglass body that you feel amazing in and can maintain year-round for life with ease. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Come follow me over on Instagram for even more fitness content. And if you're coming on back, thanks so much for joining for another video. All right, fam, we're gonna break down the top 5 fat loss mistakes I see all the time. Starting with the first, you are not tracking and evaluating any data and then making decisions based on that. So this is a very common mistake. A lot of women I speak to every single day are talking about, I'm eating healthy, I'm eating this much protein, I'm eating this many calories, I'm doing whatever workouts, and I just can't really seem to make much progress. So here's the thing, if you are not tracking what you're doing, you have nothing to analyze. You have no way of knowing if what you're doing is moving the needle or not. Now the problem is obviously a lot of women just don't even know what they should be tracking, and they also don't know how to evaluate that data. So let me explain what you should track. The first is you definitely should be tracking your weight every single day first thing in the morning and tracking it in an actual graph. And that's because on your fat loss journey, you do have to expect that you are not always going to be hitting new lows, and some of the time the scale is going to come back up. So this is why we don't want just a weigh-in every week or every month, because there are so many fluctuations day to day. So that's why you need to be doing it every single day so we can see a trend to your weight loss. So for example, I am about 2 months into my cut and I've only lost 6 pounds. Now granted, I obviously am already a pretty lean individual, and here is my weight loss trend. You can see a lot of the time I hit a new low and then I jump right back up in weight the next day. This is also a reason why it is so good to weigh yourself every day and track it in a graph, because you will see that there is a certain rhythm, a certain pattern to your body. Everybody's body is unique to them, but most people are going to experience that. They're going to hit a new low and swing back up. This is completely normal. So you need to be tracking your body weight. Your goal is literally weight loss. We need to make sure that you actually are losing weight. The other thing is you should be taking photos every single week, a photo where you can clearly see your body, you're definitely showing a bit of skin, because some of the time things are not always changing so much on the scale, but things can be changing in your photos. You can be having body recomposition where your weight doesn't really change very much, but the way you look completely changes. And here's an example of a client of mine who is that exact case. She literally looks like night and day in this photo, and there's only about a 2-pound difference. And here's another client who weighed the exact same in her before and after, even though she looks like a new person. At the end of the day, you don't actually really care about how much you weigh. You care about your body composition, how you are looking lean, strong, fit, and toned. So definitely take your progress pictures. Now, that is the data of your body that you need to be tracking. Now, you also need to be tracking what you're actually doing with your nutrition and workout plan to try to see results. So if you are in a fat loss phase, the way to really guarantee you're gonna see progress is tracking your macros, and that you are really, really adherent with those macros. So in a fat loss phase, you should hit your macros 6 days out of the week, hitting the exact amount of grams for each of your targets within 5 grams plus or minus, meaning that on your 7th day, you do still get to have your one free meal or cheat meal, however you want to see it. So nailing those macros, and then also keeping track of your workouts. A lot of the time we can think we're doing more than we actually are. So that's why you really want to make sure that you are actually going to the gym 4 times a week, if that's what your workout plan, that you are indeed getting in your cardio. Usually you should be doing somewhere between 2 to 4 cardio sessions of about 30 minutes if you're cutting, if you're trying to lose body fat. And also that you're paying attention to your steps. Are you getting 2,000 steps a day? Or are you getting 8,000 steps a day? That can really add up in your fat loss journey. And you want to see that there's consistency there, right? You don't want it to be one week you got like 15,000 steps and the next week you got 2,000. That can play a really big role in why you may or may not be seeing progress. Now, assuming you're doing all these things, you're adherent to your macros 6 days a week, you're staying on top of your workouts and your cardio, and then you're tracking your body weight, your photos, what you should see happen is that you should have a new scale low somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks, maybe sometimes as much as 4 weeks. Now, I know that that sounds like a long time, and honestly, that is just the fact of the matter that losing weight and keeping it off for good while also having a muscular body, having sexy muscle definition underneath, honestly just is a slow process. You can't lose a ton of weight really quickly. If you do lose weight quickly, that is how you end up yo-yoing and gaining it back. And even if you do take the weight off, you still just look kind of mushy and flabby because you don't have much muscle underneath. So you do have to accept weight loss is a gradual process if you want to lose the weight and keep it off for good while still keeping a healthy metabolism, happy hormones, and actually having muscle underneath that body fat to show. So if you are seeing that overall downward scale trend, then you have nothing to worry about as long as you are seeing that you're hitting a new low every 2 to 3 weeks, assuming of course that your adherence is perfect. Then you simply keep plugging away at what you're doing. Your protocols are working. However, if you have been perfectly adherent, you haven't been seeing any new lows, then that is when it would be time to make a change. You would either decrease the amount of food you're eating, obviously carbs and fats, not the protein, or you would increase your activity, try to get a higher step count, maybe add in a little bit more cardio. So the most important thing in your fat loss journey is actually making decisions based on data, not just hoping and guessing for results. Okay, the second big fat loss mistake I see all the time is thinking that there's one set of magic macros or one set of magic calories. Meaning, even if you go look at my comments here on YouTube, you'll see women asking me, okay, what's the amount of macros I should eat? These are the numbers I've been having. Is that right for me? There is not just one number that you are going to eat and you're going to magically lose 20 pounds just with one set of macros. Generally speaking, if you want to see a significant transformation, you're going to have to change your macros anywhere between 15 to 30 times. For example, my client Steph here lost 25 pounds working with me, and we changed her macros 22 times to get her from where she started versus where she ended up, now being 25 pounds down and easily maintaining it. And the reason why is because of what I just talked about in the last step, is that you have to always be evaluating the data of how your body is responding. And then if it's responding the way you want to, you maintain your current protocols. But if it's starting to adapt, you're not seeing as much progress as you want, that is when you make the adjustment. But it is so normal that you are going to have to adjust pretty frequently. So do not only pick one set of macros or one set of calories. And in fact, you shouldn't only be doing calories. You definitely want to do actual macros, because the way that you look and feel, the energy you have is going to be determined by the ratio of the macros that you have, versus if you just do calories, that can be all over the place. And that's how you can end up maybe losing weight, but not actually looking toned. So definitely do your macros. If you don't know what your custom macros should be, when and how to change them, I have tons of videos on that. You can check it out here, where I'm going to break down exactly how to do it. Now, I'd also like to say, this is why you pretty much always are going to want to do a reverse diet before doing a cut phase, before doing your fat loss phase, where you're going to be in a calorie deficit. And the reason why is because you want to prep your body to have a really successful fat loss phase. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to optimize your metabolism and get your maintenance calories nice and high, so that when it comes for you to now start to have room to drop your calories for this calorie deficit, you are going to have room to drop. That's exactly what I did with the client I just showed you, my client Steph. We first did a reverse diet, taking her from 1,600 calories a day when she started the program up to just under 2,200. And then we did her fat loss phase, where she was easily able to drop weight like clockwork. So if you're not sure how to do a reverse diet and you'd like to learn more about this, I also have a whole video on how to reverse and then go into a cut to lose fat for good. Okay, the third most common fat loss mistake is simply not being adherent enough. And I know that that sounds maybe kind of obvious, but you would be shocked how many people are like, oh my God, I'm doing all the things. Why am I not seeing results? But really, if you were to actually be really keeping track of things, you would be able to go back and you would be able to see that there's a lot of gaps in your protocols. And of course, if you are not really dialed in, if you're not really committed, it is just going to take you way longer, or perhaps you're not even going to see really much progress at all. So yes, this is the thing. It does take commitment for you to really lose body fat, because because it is not always going to be fun for you to have to commit to your macros. You're not always going to want to go do your cardio. You're not always going to want to get up and do your steps, but that is where it is going to be important that you remember, okay, I want these goals for a reason. I'm going to use discipline and push past my immediate fleeting emotion that tells me I don't want to do this, because my bigger emotion is that I really do actually want to achieve my fat loss goals. So for example, hitting your macros 6 days of the week, this means that you might be that weird person who is bringing their food in a Tupperware out when you go to meet your friends, or you're going out for the day and you have brought your meals all prepared with you. That's the thing. When it comes to fat loss, you really cannot leave it to chance. You can't think like, oh, I'll just grab something out and like hopefully it's going to hit my macros. Now, obviously, maybe once in a blue moon for an emergency, that is okay, but you definitely don't want to make a habit of that, because if you're doing that, you have no way of controlling what's actually in the food, how much you're eating, and you can be very certain it's going to be way too high in fat and then too low in protein. So that is why you're going to need to make sure that you're prepared and you are ready to go. And some of the time that's going to mean that you go out for food and drinks with your friends, but you're actually not eating or drinking anything. You're just getting a sparkling water and you ate at home before you went. Now, you still do get your one free meal a week, so of course try to use that for your social events. But if there's stuff going on outside of that, that is where you're simply going to have to kind of be a little bit different and say, you know, I'm not going to partake. I can still come hang out with you, but I'm not going to indulge because I am committed to these fat loss goals. And I know it's a little bit uncomfortable. I know it's a little bit awkward, but you have to ask yourself again, would you rather that, or would you rather not achieve your goals? So this is where being a Tupperware queen or eating at home before you go out is going to make a really big difference. Okay, the fourth most common fat loss mistake I see is simply not committing for long enough. And I was touching on this earlier, but a lot of people, unfortunately in this day and age, with all the marketing that we're constantly bombarded with saying, oh my gosh, lose 20 pounds in like 2 weeks. People have really unrealistic expectations of how long it's going to take them to achieve results. And the thing is, it's going to take longer than you think it will, and it's going to take longer than you want it to. And that is just the harsh reality. Now, the difference, and this is what I always say, is that when you are transforming your body to get a permanent result, to get fit once and for all for good, yes, it's going to take longer because you're doing it the right way, where you're actually going to have that sexy muscle on your body, underneath the body fat, and you're going to have a thriving internal system, happy metabolism, happy hormones, so you can maintain the results. So the thing is, if you want to have lasting results, you have to accept a slow and steady approach, because the difference is it's going to be gradual, but once you achieve that transformation, it is there for good. So this is why you have to really accept letting go of the instant gratification, letting go of the quick fixes, and oh, I'm just going to drop a whole bunch of weight, doing something really extreme, but then you just end up gaining it all back. Like literally, what is the point? You want to get fit for good. So this means being able to accept that the progress is gradual, but that it's lasting instead. So how long do you need to commit to getting results? I always tell people that you should really think 1 year to see a transformation like this or a transformation like this. So many of the results that I share on this channel usually were around a 1 year transformation, more or less, give or take. And that is because for the amount of weight that you want to lose, and also for the amount of muscle you want to gain to look toned, to look strong and sexy, it's simply going to take time. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to have to wait 1 year to see any results at all. Definitely not. You're going to start to see results even within your first 1 to 2 months if you're doing everything correctly with macros and with training hard in the gym. But just like when you invest your money, for example, you need to let those results compound. So when you first put your money in a stock, you're maybe only getting back a little bit of money, but if you leave that money in there for a long time, all of a sudden now you're a millionaire, right? You let it compound over time. It's the same thing here. In the beginning, you've only lost a little bit of fat. You've only gained a little bit of muscle. So if you give it more time, it's going to be a lot of fat loss and a lot of muscle gained. And again, it's going to be a lasting result. So generally speaking, if you want to lose 20, 25, 30 pounds, I'd say you should be thinking around 1 year to achieve that. Now, like I said, you can be seeing a lot of great progress before the 1 year hits, but in order to really be able to have successful fat loss and to have the phase to prepare yourself to lose the fat and get out of it, which is the reverse diet, you do need a good amount of time, because to prepare yourself for fat loss, doing a reverse diet, getting your calories up so your metabolism is faster, so you have the room to drop your calories to have a deficit, deficit, that's usually going to be maybe like 2 to 3 months. And then your fat loss phase is going to be somewhere between maybe like 5 to 8 months. Sometimes it can be a little bit longer than that. Here's one of our clients who is down 26 pounds doing the reverse and then cut. And that took about 1 year altogether. And her fat loss phase was about 9 months for her to lose all of that weight. But again, the difference is now she is maintaining these epic results. She's built so much muscle while also being lean, eating 2,300 calories a day. So to see some really significant progress, 20, 30 pounds down, maybe even as much as 40. And again, it's all going to be relative to how much weight you even have to lose while also putting on muscle and then being able to maintain it at a high calorie intake. Give yourself around that 1 year timeline, commit to the process. And of course, this is also why you still get to have your enjoyment meals. This is also why just even with macros, you get to be flexible with what you eat so that you don't have to feel like you get to have no fun. But if you want a big transformation that's going to last, you need to give it time. Okay, and then the fifth and final mistake I see with fat loss is thinking that you can lose all the body fat that you want to in just one cut. A lot of the time, to get this dream physique that you want, you're going to have to give it a few different phases. And don't forget, all these people you see with these really great physiques, it's nothing more than them having a lot of muscle on their body and then also not having that much body fat. And generally speaking, you want to dedicate your time either to focusing on muscle gain, which requires a calorie surplus, or focusing your time on fat loss, which requires a calorie deficit. So you need to spend significant periods of time doing one or the other and alternating which ones you do, cycling between the two over time. Now, yes, usually you are going to see the biggest transformation in your very first cut. And like I said, if you do all these things right that I'm talking about, you can lose anywhere between, 20 to 30, maybe as much as 40 pounds down, like my client here, who I was able to help lose 4 pounds with one reverse diet and one cut over the period of 1 year. So usually it's going to be your first cut that's going to take off a lot of the body fat, the majority of it, but then you're going to probably want to go back and do another cut a little bit later just to get to that final last little bit of body fat. So I'll share this example with my client Casey here, who in her very first reverse diet and cut, she was able to lose 20 pounds and have a huge transformation because she learned how to do macros properly. She learned via working with me when and how to actually change the macros. And of course, she learned how to lift weights to build muscle. But it wasn't until 2 years later into our coaching that we were now into her second or third cut that she got to a even better looking physique. She got even leaner and even more muscular, which actually made her look leaner and more defined because having that muscle underneath makes such a huge difference in the way that you look. So yeah, she was weighing the same and yes, she was lean, but by the time we had been able to do another cut and in between doing phases of eating up to put on muscle, doing those muscle building phases, she ended up losing even more body fat and having that really lean, really defined physique. So yes, don't think that you can just achieve everything you could have ever wanted in just one cut. A lot of the time, you are going to need to give it a couple years of cycling these phases to see a really, really incredible dream body transformation. Now, yes, you can achieve a lot just in that very first year, and that's probably where the majority of your results are going to be, but to kind of get to that next level and finish off the last little bits of chipping away and building the things that you want to see, you want to give yourself even more time and go back and do a second and third and, potentially even more cuts than that if you're really going to commit to this for the long term. All right, fam, so I hope that this video was helpful and I hope now you know maybe where you're going wrong with your fat loss journey and what to change to start seeing even better results. And of course, if you don't want to have to figure this all out on your own, this is exactly why we have an online one-to-one coaching program where we take women just like you who feel like they're doing all the things, they're not seeing the results, and we give them a completely custom, high quality strategy that continually gets updated based on the data of your body. We evaluate that and then make decisions on your protocols so that over time you're taking off plenty of body fat and adding on lots of sexy muscle definition so you can maintain your dream results year-round for life. So if you'd like to have our help, our accountability, our custom strategy designed for you to get you to that dream result, then click on the link in the description. We'd love to chat with you and see if you're a good fit for our coaching. All right, fam, thank you so much for checking out this video. Now next, I want you to go watch this one here where I'm going to break down how to do a reverse diet and then go into a fat loss phase to be able to take that body fat off and keep it off for good while eating a lot of food. So I'll see you in that video.